Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream today. We had a little bit of technical issue, but we're here now. Maybe. Um, without further ado, let's. Why don't you both introduce yourselves? I'll go last.
I'll go second. Anders, you go first.
Yeah, you go first.
Okay. Yeah, sure. My name is Anders Lauritsen, and I'm the developer of SKALD against the Black Priory. So I'm here from the developer side, I guess.
Hello, and I'm Daniel. I'm the producer from the Raw Fury side.
And I'm Fiona, and I'm the community manager, a community manager for Raw Fury, and I'm working with Anders on. I say working with. Just screaming at him on Slack. That's when I say screaming, I mean with kindness. I'd also like to say, Anders, that's the first time I've ever heard you say your full name out loud, and I was like, boy, I've definitely not been pronouncing that correctly. So I apologize.
Should I also state my last name, Daniel Johnson?
I feel like that one I can pronounce, so I
Okay.
think we might be good. So yeah, Anders, take away. Tell us how the project is going.
The project is going pretty good, but I have some internet issues today, so I can see that my video quality seems to be suboptimal. Unfortunately,
It is a little bit, but we at least got your face on here, so that's all we can.
Yeah, and as long as my voice comes through. No, I guess
Yeah.
no. Things are going really good. We're currently working on getting a new teaser ready because we're entering the game in a couple of events during the summer, and we need like a fresh teaser. And so, like working towards the new updated demo for this summer, we're making some special content for that teaser, and then we'll sort of pivot into to finishing the demo. And that means that we've currently been working a little bit on things that are, I wouldn't necessarily say gameplay related because that doesn't show as much in the teaser, but we've been working on putting in like more animated models, for instance, adding new attack animations for different weapons, and now there is a separate attack animations for like bows or two-handed weapons or single-handed weapons, and there's a little bit more particles in the game and things like that. So things that are more on the visual side, at least, has been kind of a big priority, and also commissioning quite a bit of art, both for the demo and also the teaser, especially what we call models, which are basically like character models in the game for monsters and critters like that. We've been showing some of that on Twitter, and there will be a lot more coming.
Yep. Yeah, if anyone's interested, at SKALD RPG on Twitter. Also the Discord. Anders is always posting new things, like all the things he's talked about. He has posted. I'm excited about the new attack animations. They look slick. I'm also excited about, weirdly enough, just the bigger monsters. Those look really cool, taking up more squares. Yeah, it's been really fun. Seeing that just. It's just fun. It's just progress. It's all good. But what can people expect from, like, people who have played the demo? What can they expect from the new sort of teaser? Like, what can they expect to see that's a little bit different?
I think like in general, obviously with a game like this isn't a game for visual spectacle. So a lot of this will have to be, obviously it's easier to experience it through gameplay rather than just seeing it through the teaser. But I think especially the fact that we've made the models a little bit bigger, a little bit more expressive, even also the human models, not just the monster models. And we'll be trying to showcase that a little bit as well, obviously, as also some of like the new environments that we're now able to make with the tool set that has been quite revised. But it's one of those things also where, especially for me and for people who've been following this project for a long time, I think it's hard to understand how far things have come unless you pull up the previous version of the demo and then the game as it looks now, because I would say it's a pretty big difference. Yeah, so I'm very happy to see the way it's been going, and that segues a little bit as well, because all of this has only been possible because of the fantastic support that I've been getting since I got a publisher. There's a lot of these things are things we would have never chosen to do if we didn't have the extra funding and support that we get from having a publisher. Like the animation thing, it's absolutely nothing. It's absolutely something we would not simply wouldn't prioritize, because I'm a solo developer. What you see here is the entire company, and even when we have money for assets, just like making asset orders and things like that, it's very time consuming. So being able to do the things that we're doing now is fully dependent on having been able to go on full time, which I was able to do because I signed with Raw Fury. And yeah.
Nice. Well, I will let you and DJ like chat a bit about what do you guys talk about during your days? Hit us with it. What sort of conversations are you going to be having? Or Anders, do you want to talk first about? Do you want to elaborate more on like maybe your experience with like why did you look for a publisher as a solo dev? Like, do you want to talk a bit more about that before we lead into what you and DJ chat about?
Yeah, we can say just a little bit about that,
Yep.
And that's kind of also something a little bit, but not too much, because I think that's also an interesting discussion for a separate stream, and we're going to have Johan Thorisson on eventually, who is the like one of the scouts and the scout that scouted me for Raw Fury, and I think like we'll be talking a lot more about that part of it with him. But in short terms, I think like. Especially as a solo developer, it becomes very clear that your ability to, especially to do things like marketing and market research and like everything that goes into that, just keeping a Steam page up to date, generating assets, all of that is hugely time consuming. So it doesn't really take a lot of math to realize that if you had someone professional handling the distribution side of it, that would probably be a net gain for your company. And so even though it's very easy to self-publish, it's not easy to make yourself to get noticed if you self-publish, because those are two very, very different things. It's a matter of routine, just paying $100 and putting your game on Steam. Anyone, literally anyone can do that. But since everyone is doing that, there is, you need to go the extra mile to get your game a little bit ahead, I think. And so I started looking for a publisher, and I was very, as I've said many times, I was very, very quickly drawn to Raw Fury because of their business model and the ethical part of the company and so forth. So I could very clearly see that they would be a good match for me, and they clearly have been so far. So.
Twirly mustache there.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I mean, yeah, and that's I said perfect segue into talking about okay, you got yourself a publisher, and we throw Daniel at you. What happens then?
What happens then, Anders? No, but it's like what you said. I think a big part of being a publisher is basically a part of it is the funding. We help fund projects to make sure that developers are able to deliver on their original vision. It's also a bit about like the risk management. Like anyone can build, well, I'm saying anyone can build a game. That's not true, but you could go the route of self-publishing, but it's also a bit like risk management, making sure that when during the development cycles of the project that you are able to sustain a good living, making a good salary out of it, and then in the end, if the project is successful, if you go alone, then you have a lot to gain, but at the same time going with the publisher also offsets some of the risk of doing everything yourself, because like the entire business model of a publisher is to offset some risk. We will have hits and we will have misses. Those will have a less significance for a bigger company than it will have for individual publishers. So that's sort of where the business of being a publisher starts, that we can afford to have projects that are less successful, but that offset some of the
We lost Anders' face, so just bear with us here. Oh no! Hold on. This messed us all up
we
now.
lost
Hold on.
Anders.
Can I just? Oh wait. Okay. So if I make Anders disappear, I can make you come back. There we go. Okay, it's me and you.
Is it only us now?
It's only us now. Well, since like Anders. Oh. Like Anders, oh my god, this is just gonna get no, it's just it's just okay. I should stop laughing. Sorry, y'all. Yeah. This is just the world of tech. Oh, we can bring Anders back.
Am I back?
You're back.
Yeah, you're back again. No, but as I was saying, it offsets some of the financial risks for independent developers to have a funding partner. So that's like when we partner up with developers, a part of our business is that we provide funding, and that is funding for the developers as individuals, but also to make sure that they have funding to do all the cool things they want to do in the game, like outsourcing art, outsourcing voiceover, and getting more people involved in their projects. So that's maybe one of the big things, or one of the big reasons to go with the publisher. But we also have like a lot of services. Raw Fury has grown a lot in the recent years. When I started, we were 5 people. Now we're over 70, I think, and we have a plethora of different services we can offer to developers during the production of the game, which I think we will probably go into more in detail, like how we work. Every project is slightly different, and every project has slightly different needs. But some of like the core tenets of Raw Fury is that we are very much a publisher for developers, and what that means in practice is that me as a producer is trying to adapt more to the way of each individual developer and trying to address their specific needs. So we don't try to create a model that we can fit all games into. One of the ways that we show that is that we don't maybe keep milestones and do like traditional agile methodologies where we check off certain features at certain dates and tie payments to those milestones. It's more that we try to build a relationship upon trust, and that we very much want to be a part of development process and help out wherever we see there is a need, and wherever the developer feels that there is a need. But at the core of it, it's very much that the developers, as I see it, they are the experts of what experience they are making, and we try to empower that as much as possible. And that is like maybe the overarching role of a producer to I look at it like I have both external and internal responsibilities, where like an external responsibility is towards Anders in this case, where I'm trying to make sure that he gets the best out of Raw Fury as possible, and then I have an internal like responsibility towards the company that I work for, and that is to make sure that the project is as successful as possible. Those two align, but it's a matter of how you approach the work, I would say, where maybe a more traditional model would be to have an external partner report in and say, okay, so these are the milestones, you deliver the project, whereas now we are sort of more leaning towards the developers and more want to be more involved in the project, as contrary to maybe traditional software development. If you work with a consultant, for example, we don't view it that way. We sort of want to like game development is quite unique in that sense that it is an art form, and maybe you can't attach milestones in the same way as if you would develop a program to, I don't know, do
Accountancy.
yeah, exactly. Like that is more like
Banking.
yeah, banking. Like the development process is more like there are more gray areas, and this is where like we try to put more trust on the developer side, and that this goes back all into like that we'll probably discuss more in the other streams, but like for the scouting process, like we don't only invest like in projects or in software, we also invest in the teams, and like we want to see the passion in the team as well to make sure that it's a good fit.
Mhm.
So that's my short stick. Or maybe long, I don't know.
Yep.
I think I don't really, I haven't ever worked with a publisher before,
Yeah.
so would you say that the way like you and I and me and the team collaborate, is it different than other projects you have that you're currently working on? Do we work closer than other projects, or like?
Yes, I would say it's like it's a bit of a difference if you have like if you work with a solo developer and also based on the personality of said solo developer, obviously, and if you work with a larger team that have 14 people on staff, because then it's natural that the work is a bit different.
Yeah.
Then and it's the challenge for a producer at Raw Fury and a producer that is working within publishing is maybe to be able to recognize those differences and being able to adapt to that as well to get the most out of the project.
Yeah.
So if when we work together, like when you and me work together, if I have a sense that you are on track and that you have a good direction and you have a lot of passion for the project, then my role might be different from another project where the same
You
where
might
we
have to be
don't
more hands-on or something.
yeah, exactly. It's like it could be more hands-on, but that is very much like it's very much an interpersonal thing where you discover things as you go along, I would say.
Yeah, sure.
Because this is like for me for this project, sorry if I'm talking constantly, but
It's okay.
for this project it's like even when we signed this, like Anders, you were very driven and very passionate about the project, and I didn't foresee that there would be uh, a lot of issues when it comes to the development side of the project, whereas maybe you need help with other things such as marketing and
Yeah.
amplifying the game,
Yeah.
where this project we might lean more towards that, whereas other projects they could lose direction at some point and don't really know where we're going, and then there are different conversations to be had. So no project is sort of the same, and I would say that this can also change throughout the life cycle of a title as well. That some you might have good direction in the beginning, and then you lose some of that, and then it's sort of our responsibility, or what we try to do at least, is to try to steer developers in a better direction if we feel that is sort of missing, but it's never like enforced.
Mhm.
Maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean, I think I can add like a tiny bit to that when it comes to just like with solo devs and working with solo devs. It also comes down to the fact that like if you're a solo dev and you know your strengths and weaknesses when it comes to not just the development of your game, but like marketing, communities, PR, all that sort of thing. If you know what those are and are able to relay them to your publisher, I'm good at this and want to do this, but I'm not so good at this, or my strengths aren't in this. That's like, I think, an amazing first conversation to have as well, right? Because then the team can
Yeah.
be like, all right, let's get that sorted then. And I think having that on that sort of just first thought is goes a long way to.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And also, like the project changed so much over the lifetime of a project. Like when we get closer to release, we get into a more maybe technical focus on actually. Okay, so now we need to deliver the final project, like to wrap it up and then send it to the audience. and then we sort of maybe shift focus a bit more. It's like the intensity of the project is also very much varying depending on where they are in the timeline. So that's also different from project to project, and some projects have less technical difficulties, some have more, and it's something we try to keep on top of as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, I think like the risk that you run as like I would say maybe the primary risk that you run as a developer when you consider going to a publisher is that you and the publisher might have a different view on what the publisher should be supporting you with, or how the publisher should be supporting you through the life cycle of the game, especially in terms of how far do you go in marketing, for instance, what's to be expected there. And I think that's absolutely something where you can burn yourself. And I think the stories I've heard of developers who have been very unhappy with their publishers are all stories where the publishers have signed a deal where they get large cut of the revenue, but then in the developer's eyes, the publisher doesn't do much to support the developer beyond maybe just like paying the money. And I would say that even though the money are critical, the services are equally important. And we just had a question from the chat about whether or not Raw Fury provides any toolset support, as in like technical toolsets, and they don't do so for my project, but they provide quite a bit of other services, and maybe we should spend a little bit of time talking about what exactly like what services.
I think I can just add to it when you're talking about the tool sets. Like you just said, like your tool set is unique to you, so it's not something that we have on board or can like help you with. But I would say that for other projects, especially having like a QA team in that way, we have our own. I mean, we don't have the tool sets to provide people, and I guess it falls into services a little bit. But if someone's coding something in like Unity, then maybe we have a bit more experience on our end to say, hey, what's up. But with someone like a solo dev with a unique tool like yours, it's like we look at you and go, Kilbeans, what can we do?
Yeah, but we also have as a publisher, we also have Fury Studios that have a lot of tooling on their own that can help when it comes to porting. They have done a lot of different projects for us, and they have their own libraries that they continuously improve, which can be a quite good service for developers as well. If we are publishing on other platforms. For these specific projects, we have talked a bit about doing other other platforms, but we haven't reached any agreement yet on when we would do so. But we definitely have that capacity in-house and that know-how to bring games to other platforms, and we also are working like with VR, and this is something, one of our strengths, that now when we are a bit bigger, like in the beginning when we were 5 people or when we were 2 people, that didn't exist in the same way. Now we have sort of are building the know-how in-house, and we're becoming more and more experienced, so that's something that we can alleviate as well for developers that want to go big and wide. And this is not only maybe like throughout the development life cycle of a game. We have seen on occasion that we have games that are released and then they get opportunities to be on platforms that weren't originally that we didn't originally develop for, which we then can, without the developer being that much involved, can help adapt said game on those platforms. So that's also something that is good to think about. It's like when you go with a publisher such as Raw Fury, that what happens with the game 1 year after release, or 2 years after release, or 3 years after release. Like when you have Raw Fury on board, it's in both the developer and our interest to prolong the lifetime of the game as much as possible, and we always our entire portfolio is always pitch to partners, and we always talk to partners about those games. So we are able to bring games that maybe the developers have not worked with, to platforms that didn't even exist when they stopped the project. That have happened, and that is sort of an extra service, so to speak. So even if a game, it does well and it's released, but it can have a longer life if it gets the attention of a publisher, and it gives some peace of mind to developers as well, to know that the entire lifetime of a project is being looked after when you go with the publisher. So that's something to consider. Then it's like it's not for everyone. Everyone, when if you're developing a project, should consider the risks and the rewards of having a publisher on your end, if you want to do all the work yourself, or if there are benefits of having external help.
But I think that's absolutely. I think a lot of people have certain biases against publishers because they don't really understand what a publisher does. And like for me as a solo developer, the things that you're referring to in terms of porting, for instance, that's absolutely something. If we port to another platform, that will be handled by Raw Fury. It's not something I'm likely going to do myself. The same would go for localization, and that's just, I don't think, for a lot of people, I don't think you realize how big of a burden that is, because it means that once the game launches on PC, me and DJ can have the conversation of, okay, should we maybe start localizing and maybe porting, and then maybe do some other platforms post PC launch, and then I can start working on the next game while basically Raw Fury is doing the best they can to make the game sell. Because also what a lot of people don't realize with a publisher is that if I'm not making money, then the publisher isn't making money either. Beyond like a couple of months when you're recouping the publisher spending, after that basically the money is being split. So as long as I don't make money, they don't make money, and that's basically like the gist of it. So, and I think that also it dovetails also a little bit into what do publishers actually, what does it mean to sign a deal with a publisher. Because I didn't have a full idea of it, and also because that means different things to different companies. But more and more in game development in particular, and especially with Raw Fury, the only thing that you sign over to a publisher is the distribution rights to the game, which means that I own fully all of both like the IP and like the intellectual universe of the game, and also the game engine. I retain all of those rights, and that was very important for me to sort of find a publisher where that is true. It's true for most publishers these days, I think, but that's also it makes it very hard to argue against going with a publisher if you both retain all of the rights and you sort of get a lot of fantastic help. I see Candy Alien, which is actually one of our team members, Soul's only distribution rights, which is exactly right.
I mean, I was again. I really wanted more Souls, but I was outvoted, so that's the way it gotta go. I guess
in the Souls column.
It's like I'm just gonna have to age. I'm 100 years old now. I'm just gonna have to age into it. The Souls are not keeping me alive anymore. I would like to ask you a question, Anders, about when you're talking about services. So, as a solo dev, which services were you expecting and looking for going in? And was there any services that were offered to you that you were like, I didn't think about that? Like, what were your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think first of all, I didn't expect such a hands-on experience with Raw Fury, and I think that comes down to me, first of all, being a small studio, so everything has to be from an outside partner. Like literally anything I can't do myself, someone outside my company has to do, and that probably also means that we've been clinging to each other a lot closer than other people. Because for me, Raw Fury is basically I don't there is no separation in my mind. It's like we're colleagues. There's no like hierarchy or anything like. For me, I feel absolutely as if we're colleagues. That's the way I think about Raw Fury. So that's a long-winded way of saying I basically get all of my services outside of basically operations and development from Raw Fury. And you know, I always knew that there would be some like marketing support, but I think like I didn't realize how hands-on Raw Fury would be or offer to be, because it's very specialized in the sense that there are dedicated people working only on making video media. There is like a dedicated market analyst that I can talk to. He's a specialist on market analysis of online platforms, for instance. There's a dedicated social media guy, like or girl, Fiona, because it's you. Like there is a marketing manager working like not only on this project, obviously, but someone who I can talk to pretty much anytime, like 24/7. I can pick up the phone and we call each other and we talk. And our biggest gripe so far has been that due to COVID, we haven't all been able to meet, which is probably the biggest, the saddest thing so far.
Agreed.
Yeah, but I guess like to answer your question, I think I was pleasantly surprised at what a broad spectrum of services was offered, and to like what a complete level they were offered there. Because I was a little bit afraid that, oh, is it going to be like where you get one guy and they do, or like one person and they do everything, and like they try to do everything poorly, and you're constantly thinking, oh, I could have done this better myself. Because that's kind of like the curse of a lot of solo developers, I think. That
you've had to do it by yourself, so you know you had to maybe learn.
Yeah, exactly. You're very self-made in a lot of ways, but that's absolutely not the case with Raw Fury. With Raw Fury, I'm always thinking, oh, thank God I have these amazing professionals that can do this so much better than I can. And that's really, really good. So yeah, I hope that answers.
And I think that's also plays into the core of what Raw Fury wants to be, that to be an equal partner to the developers and be involved in the projects. And it's also to like, we haven't done a lot of events and things like that, but that is very time consuming as well for developers to go around to events and to make sure that the correct media gets a hand of the game once we're closer to release. And all of those like marketing and brand beats are also very like, maybe that's the biggest problem for games today, to actually get eyes on them. Like there are many fantastic games that are released that are struggling with getting the attention that they deserve, and that is maybe the like one of the core problems we try to address as a publisher, to make sure that all the games get the attention and that they get the eyes that they deserve. And that's not only like with the, with media and with events, it's also that they are put in front of partners like Microsoft and Sony, and see if there's interest there to maybe find a good deal. Some of the games industry is going towards this subscription model, and having a publisher with established relationships with these partners as well is becoming increasingly important to have a successful project. And it's a lot to ask for a solo developer to be able to do all of that while developing the game. I can't you can't overestimate how difficult it is to develop a game and carry a vision of a game from beginning to end, and at the same time being able to do all the business development and do all the marketing strategies for it. That is a tall ask, and that's why we set on this journey to help developers in the best way we are able to.
I think,
and hopefully we do a good job.
Yeah,
Sweat.
And I think that's a really it's something we don't really ever talk about with my project. Like I don't talk about it much to the community, but there is a lot of business development going on also, and a lot of that has to do with exactly what DJ is saying, that having signed with a publisher, it's one of those things where you have almost like an exponential effect on something, because the moment you get signed by a publisher, not only does the publisher have a lot of connections, but it also lends a lot of it's kind of a it's like a mark of approval where people will be thinking, okay, they got signed by these guys, well, they have to have something going for them, so it really opens a lot of doors. And I think that if you really have, I mean, all developers are different, but it's been important for me at least to try to capitalize on that a little bit. So that's like a lot of what's going on behind the scenes with my company, sort of consolidating the company and also consolidating the IP to make sure that there will be more SKALD stuff made, because I really enjoy it, and I think that having signed with Raw Fury is has been like a without really saying too much, it's been a unique opportunity to make more of the IP than just having to sort of scrape by and then make one game, put it on Steam, sell 1,000 copies, and then have to start making the next game just to pay bills. So and that yeah, like regarding your previous question, Fiona, that's absolutely something I didn't really that surprised me very positively, how many doors it's opened to be signed with a publisher. Absolutely.
Yep. Well, we have 5 minutes left. Is there anything that you just put it out there? But do either of you have it? You're right there,
I
DJ.
haven't even introduced myself yet. No, I was just kidding.
Is there anything that you both like would just want to quickly talk about or mention? This isn't the sign off for it. I just wanted to give you just to let you know, because we could talk for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions incoming?
There's. Go ahead, Anders.
There we answered one of them, which was about sort of the technical support side, and there was also a question from someone I have no idea who is, why DJ is the best producer.
Who said that? Was it me?
It was Susie.
I guess it's an interesting question in a sense, because I literally had no idea what a producer does.
Me neither.
So, it was one of those things where I wasn't. I realized that you were an excellent tool, but I wasn't quite sure what to use you for when we started.
Well, that's actually a really interesting point that you make. Like, if you're coming in as a solo dev and someone's like, "Hey, I'm a producer. Hey, I'm in brand. Hey, I'm in community. Hey, I'm doing this," you're like, "Okay, what?" Because that's this. You're a developer and you're working on your game, and it's not always clear like what those positions are unless you've had them previously.
Exactly.
So I think that's like, that's another conversation I think solo devs need to have, is like, all right, hello, what can we do together? Like, what do we want to do together? Yeah. What are your plans and ideas, and what can I expect? So yeah.
I think there is a bit of like, sometimes people think that the producer comes in and like direct the game and say, okay, so let's tighten up the graphics on level 3 in here now, and let's do this.
Yeah.
And I view this role as a very like a servant role to make sure that the game and the project is as good as possible. So I'm looking at like, if Anders is happy, then I'm doing sort of an okay job. And at the end of the day, like if the project is successful by whatever metrics we think we should measure it by, then it's a successful project. So you do a bit of everything, but it's not like coming in with some expert opinion about, no, this is not how the direction of the game. When I look at game pitches and I want to sign games, I'm very much like, I want to work with the best people in the industry and see that they have the best vision for the game, and that is what I sort of look for, and then try to amplify that in the best way we can with the tools that we have internally. But at the end of the day, like, and I don't know if this is unique to Raw Fury as a publisher, but in my mind, that is a very good way to work, because at the end of the day, the person that shows up with the vision and with the passion for the project is the developer. And if we can give them the best tools and the best possibilities to succeed, that's a good project. So yeah, so that's my like the mission for producers. Like I do whatever I think that we like, making sure that we uphold our promises to you when you sign with us, and then we take it from there basically. And every project is different in that sense, so everyone has different needs, but and try to be like mindful of that and try to listen as much as possible.
I think when we like one of our first conversations, DJ, what you said was very sort of it cleared things very up
Yeah.
for me. You said that I'm basically you inside Raw Fury. I represent you inside Raw Fury,
Yeah.
which is for me made a lot of sense, because it meant
Yeah.
that you kind of had one of your jobs is to have both Raw Fury and my interests.
Yeah.
Like it's in your job description. It's not just incidental as with everyone who's sort of working on the project and really loves the project, but you're basically being paid to to both
Yeah.
look up me and Raw Fury at the same time, which is
Yeah.
made a lot of sense for me.
And to a greater extent, if I would put the percentage on it, I would probably put 70 on the developer, 30 on Raw Fury. Like at the end of the day, well,
Oh.
then both sides are successful.
Yeah.
But in this setup, I'm primarily trying to make sure that the developers get the best experience possible, and that will sort of have a positive effect on us as well. And you can look at like
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would
when
just
you
like to say.
measure
Oh,
what is.
sorry, just wanted to just to chip in there. I think my internet had a bit of a fart,
Yeah.
so the stream did pause. It is now, it is now viewing at like 2040p. But like I could hear you through, and it would probably you're good to go now. Sorry, I didn't want to like interrupt your train of thought there.
Yeah, but it's like I think this comes down to like like how you are as a person as well. Like if you look at effectiveness, it's like obviously it would be more effective to have more like when it comes to milestones and planning, to maybe more predictable, to try to enforce that stronger. But at the same time, I don't think it's more effective for Raw Fury as a publisher, because a part of what we are and the foundation of Raw Fury is to put the developers front and center and make sure that they can deliver the projects according to their vision and according to their creative process. So you can make an argument that, oh, it would be more effective if you followed up every single week and you checked off a couple of boxes to see, okay, so what has been done this week and what's next week. But at the end of the day, if you measure effectiveness on like the attractiveness of signing with Raw Fury as a publisher, I think that the net effect of imposing those kind of more strict requirements, so to speak, would not be a good thing. So I think that is sort of the core of the relationship, is that that to give a lot of trust and a lot of autonomy to developers, just like we do with the teams internally as well, and that the net gain of that will be much higher than trying to drill down into the specific of a project. Because when you do that, then yeah, maybe it's more effective, but it's not, at the end of the day, it's not a good approach, I think.
But I think also, what, like as a developer, one of the things to keep in mind, one of the things that you really have to work with is like the importance of all the soft skills in this business. And
Yeah.
I think that for me, I work both like as a project manager and also as a manager in general, and so it comes natural for me to work with other people in this way. And I think like one of the things that I had to be a little bit like, I had to talk, we had to talk about it one day, me and you, is like I wouldn't say I'm assertive, but I'm absolutely someone who will keep the ball rolling basically. So I'm not really afraid to sort of go and kick people on the shoulder and say, is this moving forward, is this happening? And I remember I had to say to you, am I treating the people too much like employees? Am I forgetting my place a little bit here? But you were like, and I remember you said that no, this is this is very good because it like
Yeah.
it keeps everyone. It's yeah. So
We
Yeah,
have
no, I
a
think yeah.
we have a question from chat. It's more of a scouting question, but since it's been asked now, I think it would be polite if we answered. And the question was, how long was the process from pitch to agreement?
Oh, you can answer that, Anders.
I can. The process was quite long, actually, and that has to do with the fact that I sort of cold pitched Johan. I wasn't discovered by Johan. I was approached by several other publishers, but not Raw Fury. So first of all, I went after Raw Fury, which is like it means that probably things aren't moving as fast because the scouts get hundreds, if not thousands, of pitches. And they have to sift through them, and just the logistics of sifting pitches is, it makes it difficult. So, and then there was one of those things also where I pitched him in the spring, and then summer came in between, and since we live in a socialist utopia, we have long summer holidays. So that also meant that things got like got a bit delayed, so to speak. And I think we spent almost 6 months from when I first approached Johan until we had ink on the paper, and that can be pretty taxing. It was very smooth sailing until we started like properly negotiating, because up to that point I didn't need a publisher. It would be nice to have a publisher. So I was very cool about it until we basically started dating each other, and then it was gut-wrenching because you realized how big of a deal it's going to be if you get signed, and you don't have anything until you have ink on the paper, no matter how good and like how nice people and how well-meaning people are. So and there's all kinds of things that can go wrong. Like I mean, there doesn't have to be any ill will involved at all, but like there's just things that can go wrong, or you can end up not agreeing like on terms in the contract and so forth. So I would say that like you should never take anything for granted, and just like don't put all your eggs in one basket, I would say. And also like expect to spend a lot of time. It can go really fast, but there's also practical things like it shouldn't go too fast either, because you should negotiate the contract. You should really use a lawyer, go through all the terms, make sure you understand everything, and even think on it a little bit. So don't be desperate and say yes to the first, because I was approached, as I said, by a couple of publishers earlier, and for several reasons I think it would have been, I'm not going to go into that now exactly why, but for several and separate reasons with several of those publishers, it would have been bad for the project to sign with them because of different things. So do your due diligence and let the time work for you, and just have financial runway to survive until you get ink on the paper. Don't get so desperate that you mess up.
And compare if you have a different deal, compare and reach out to developers that have signed with publishers and ask them
Yes.
what their impression was on working with a certain publisher, to get the full picture. Because sometimes every publisher isn't for everyone, I guess, and it's always good to do the due diligence properly before just jumping in bed with the first offer. And then also and compare the contract and understand the contract. That's really key.
It is really important, because there is kind of there is a saying that you get enough rope to hang yourself with, and that can be the case in certain in certain publisher contracts. I think that you get enough rope that it you get enough money that it seems good, but you end up in kind of a deal where it's suboptimal.
Yeah.
So I think it's hugely important to compare, not just to compare with other people who have been working with that publisher, but also to be a little bit promiscuous and maybe approach other publishers, pitch to several publishers, and even if you have no intention of signing with some of them, do it just to get like the experience in pitching, and to maybe get a sneak peek at their terms, which is hugely important, I think. I think that's.
And our terms, you can just Google and find them because our contract is out there in the open.
Mhm.
It is.
Yep.
It is, and that's a huge thing with Raw Fury. And at the same time, I like, and that's absolutely not to be a smart ass, but like one of the things that's very nice with Raw Fury is that basically everyone gets the same contract. But even like despite that, we still did quite a bit of back and forth with our lawyer and Raw Fury, and there were some terms in the contract that weren't like there was no like ill will in it. But it's terms that once you change the wording from a developer's perspective, it becomes you sleep a little bit easier at night, and it has to do with things like what if there is a breach, like what are like the clauses of not making competing product. There's a lot of like niche things, but we're like it most of the time the reasons they worded the way they are is just because what's good for Raw Fury and the developer, like there's very often a middle ground where we can both say of course we can change this. It's good for all of us that we all sleep better at night, I guess. So yeah. That was a lot of words.
No, it made complete sense, and it needed to be said. So, and Dire Prism in chat just said your contract is how I learned you existed. So, having our contract out there really put a lot of eyes into how publishers do things and what we do. So, yeah, it makes sense that it's very important for developers. So, yep.
I think so too. And like also, but once you sign, I think because Raw Fury is organized the way it is, that we don't really use milestones and so forth. Contract and what's like the wording in the contract has never been a subject for us in the day-to-day. So I think that like everything that happens after you sign the contract is more down to communication, basically. And I think that's hugely important. You can't sign with a publisher. I don't think it's a good idea, at least, to sign with a publisher if you intend to be like this reclusive game developer that doesn't really want to be bothered and you don't want to talk to them. And as long as the money is in there on the date, I think you're leaving a lot of value on the table if that is your approach to game development. I think you should think as a developer that once you sign, especially with Raw Fury, I think like one of the strengths with Raw Fury is that it becomes a very collaborative effort once you sign with a publisher like Raw Fury, and that's something you should lean into.
Cool. Well, I think we should leave it off here, and we got a lot of good thoughts out there. I'm glad we could have this chat with everybody. I think it's important for folks to know. But we will be back next month with another stream. I believe it's going to be me, Anders, and Johan to do with scouting. I think that's what we're going to be doing. We'll see how it goes. And so if anyone in chat wants to come back next month and have some questions, how you throw them at us, you can catch us on, there's several Twitters. You have Raw Fury Twitter, we have SKALD RPG Twitter, we both have Discords under the same names. You can catch us there. You can see us on, if you type in SKALD in Steam, you will see both the Prologue, which you can still play, and the game itself if you want to wishlist. So we got everything is up and everything is good to go. Any final thoughts or lovely words from you both? Do you have anything that you wish to say?
I would just like to say that I'm very approachable in DMs and PMs, so feel free at any time to approach me. Send me a direct message on Twitter or hit me up on Discord if you have questions about game development in general, publishing, or obviously also the project which I'm currently working on. So anytime.
Cool. DJ?
No, it's a lot of pressure to get any final words to wrap this stream up. It's been a great experience to be a part of this. It's my first stream ever, and
Really?
now I'm going to, now I'm going to go back into the shadows and hide. Put all the spotlight on the developers as they deserve.
Well, like I said, we'll be back next month with our SKALD stream. We'll also be live in like 5 minutes with another stream. So if you want to tune in for that, feel free to do so. It's all going off today. But yes, thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.